Hello and welcome back to The Sober Connection with me, Abby King. My guest today has built an incredible community around sobriety since getting sober 3.5 years ago. So as well as listening to her own personal story today, I also wanted to explore what we're both seeing in our work on opposite sides of the world, especially when it comes to high-functioning women who are holding everything together but quietly questioning their relationship with alcohol. My guest today is the wonderful Jodi Clark. Hi Jodi, how are you?
Hey Abby, I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for coming on my little podcast. It's really cool to meet you finally. I think we were just saying that, we've sort of been following each other from the start of our journeys, really. So I remember when you first came on the scene, and I was a little bit further ahead than you, but you've taken over the sober online community, I feel, since you started. So yeah.
Yeah, lots of
Um,
different.
but I just thought we'd start with, just take us back. You've been sober for 3.5 years now. Take us back to who you were 4 years ago.
God, 4 years ago, an entirely different woman, a completely and utterly different identity, different version of myself. And if I look at photos now, I don't really recognize myself very much. Not that I would ever want to detach myself from her, because if I wasn't her, I wouldn't be who I am now. She taught me a hell of a lot.
Mm.
But I was a mum then, as I am a mum now. I was a busy woman then, as I am now. Life does look very, very different, but the biggest change for me is that I'm not binge drinking at every opportunity that I get.
Yeah.
My life, but it doesn't really bear any resemblance to what it was before, Abby, to be honest with you. Um, the kind of the version of me that decided that I wanted to stop drinking was drinking heavily every weekend, not the kind of drinking that some people do, and in terms of kind of getting up first thing in the morning. My story was very much kind of like in that grey area. But I thought about it all the time, just because I wasn't actually drinking all the time. I thought about it, and I was kind of the person that always sort of said to myself, if I can just get to my goal weight, I'll drink every day. Totally oblivious to any of the health implications whatsoever. But at the time, I was heavily overweight. I was riddled with anxiety. I inside was miserable. On the
Mm.
outside, successful, a good mum, determined, strong. Yes, I was carrying some extra timber, but I think a lot of people generally wear out the back of COVID as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the outside, everything other than kind of possibly looking a little unhealthy, physically, everything else was fine. All the boxes were ticked.
Yeah.
But internally, I was really at a point where I knew something needed to change. I didn't ever link any of it to alcohol. I didn't think that the anxiety was to do with how much I was drinking. I thought it was just a
Mm.
culmination of being stressed and overwhelmed and overworked and underappreciated, and being a mom and a husband who's in the RAF and he's never here because he's always working, and I'm carrying the fort, coming out the back of IVF. And I just thought it was a culmination of all of those things, with no attention given to the fact that I was pouring alcohol on what was already an internal fire as often as I
Yeah.
possibly could do. So that's where I was at 4 years ago. Yeah, just not the same person, Abby, at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy when you look back on, I kind of feel the same that, I feel like people that knew me 4 years ago would not recognize the person that I am today, and vice versa. People that know me now would never imagine what I was like 4 years ago. And I like that. It's cool.
It's
You know,
intentional,
it's
right?
yeah. It's definitely very cool. So what was the turning point, do you think, for you when so you had all these things going on, but you weren't linking it to the fact that you were drinking? What was it? What do you think that was the turning point? Did you have like a moment of like sudden realization, like an aha moment, or did it just sort of accumulate and then you thought, well, maybe I'll give this a go? What was your thought process behind that?
I think that there must have been lots of different tiny, like I never sort of say that I had a severe rock bottom moment, but I think for me there was just a gathering of lots of tiny little lower than low moments that kind of
Hmm.
buried itself into my subconscious, that was there, but I would never quite let it reach my conscious mind, because as soon as I did, that would mean that I actually had to do something about it. And I was
Yeah.
super protective over my precious wine. No way was I wasn't ready to change my relationship with it. Um, and the reason why I say that is that I kind of had like a pinnacle moment when I went away on holiday with the kids. And during that holiday, there were a couple of moments where I started to realise that my relationship with alcohol had possibly got to a point where it had never been before. And I was really looking forward to sitting on my own drinking Prosecco on the balcony rather than spending time with the kids. Like we'd get up for breakfast in the morning. There were a couple of mornings on holiday where I just wanted to lay in because I felt hungover, and they'd go for breakfast without me on a kids' holiday, on like a family holiday. And there were a couple of things that happened on that break that just managed to maybe drag a few of the previous things from my subconscious to my conscious. And I thought, you know what? I think we really could do with just trying to do a little bit of like, I wanted to take a break predominantly to lose weight. I don't think that at that time, and again, going back 3.5 years, trying to kind of remember it, where my head was kind of at, it was never around, I need to change my relationship with alcohol because of what alcohol is doing to me. It was never really to do with the health implications, the anxiety or anything deeper. The way that I managed to rationalize it, and what kind of kept coming through for me, was around the weight loss. So I don't know whether it was just, I did know all of these things. And the thing that I was able to rationalize it was linking it to a weight loss goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Whilst these things were kind of coming to me whilst I was away, accepting them or not, I made the decision that I was going to do 100 days alcohol free on that holiday, and decided that the reason for that was because I wanted to lose some weight. And I still think that possibly completely in denial, because I know now, looking back, I can remember moments on that holiday where certain things happened, certain people said certain things in terms of like, not about me or my drinking, but there was a moment where we were walking back to our apartments with another family that we'd got friendly with, and we got our bottle of Prosecco to take back to the room, and she commented and said, God, I wish that we took a bottle of Prosecco back to the room. We just go back and have a cup of tea. And I remember saying to her, well, I wish I could go back to the room and have a cup of tea. It's just not something that I've ever done. And it was in that moment, it kind of little things like that I started to realise and notice those little things that I was saying that normally I probably would have just said and never even thought anything of it. So it was almost like something was bringing these moments to my conscious, my awareness. I was becoming aware of the dialogue that I was using and the labels that I was allocating to myself. Whereas previously, did not give a shit about. That was just, I drink how I drink and I drink how I drink, and that's it. So that holiday was the turning point for me. Unbeknownst, like I say, never really consciously, because of what alcohol was doing, I just decided that I wanted to lose some weight, and I knew a 30-day challenge was not going to be enough. I had a good 6 stone that I wanted to lose. So that was the holiday. That was the turning point for me.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And you've never looked back?
No, not at all. No.
That's amazing. Yeah.
No, I haven't. I really haven't. I around the 30-day mark, I knew. There was never any intention for me that it was going to be long term. Like I say, I didn't look at my relationship with alcohol and think I dramatically need to change my relationship with alcohol. I look back now and go, fucking hell, how did you not know that you needed to change your relationship with alcohol? Are you crazy? But at the time, it was nothing to do with booze. It was nothing to do with that. It was just because it was making me heavy. It was making me overweight, and it was making me miserable. And I linked that I was miserable and unhappy because I was overweight, not because of what alcohol was doing to me. So it was never meant to be a long-term thing for me. It was supposed to be 100 days. We'd got a group. We all turned 40 the following year in our girl group. And we got the first of those celebrations on my 101 day 101. And of course, that to me that's going to be incredible, because I'm going to have the biggest piss up to celebrate 100 days alcohol free. I cannot wait.
Not even going to need that much alcohol, because your tolerance would have been.
It would have been a nice cheap
when I'm done.
Absolutely, that was fully the in my mind. Oh, it's fine, because you do, don't you? When you're starting to take a break, or you plan to take a break, or whatever it might be, you look ahead and think, oh shit, I've got a wedding, or I've got a birthday, or I've got this coming up. And for me, it was, oh my god, I've got this first 40th, which was with one of my kind of like drinking girls as well. Know each other forever. And then around the 30-day mark, I'd managed to listen to the right things, watch the right stuff, completely 100% brainwash myself. And I don't know what happened. Again, like I say to you, I think I was swallowing down everything that I actually knew. I think I knew deep down. But consciously, if you'd have asked me why I was taking that break, never to do with alcohol. Never to do with alcohol. But to get to 30 days and decide I was never, ever touching it again, I must have known. I must have known. I'm not an idiot. I must have known.
Yeah. It's interesting when people, I mean, I've talked about this before, when people do, you know, like they'll do dry January or, you know, sober October, whatever, and they don't, they just white knuckle their way through, and they do it to prove a point to themselves or to others or whatever the reason is, but they don't take advantage of it, and they get to the, you know, a minute past midnight on the 1st of the next month and they're ready to go again, you know, and they just haven't learned anything. It's really, I think it's, you know, like you said, you listened to the right things and you sort of spent that 30 days, that first 30 days really educating yourself, you know, listening to the right things. It's so important, right?
It is, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think that it goes deeper than that we can educate ourselves. And yes, I did. And one of the biggest turning points for me was around seeing the brain scan imagery and the SCEPT imagery. So whether you follow Doc Amen or Doc Armin in America, he's famous for the brain scans, etc. And it was seeing things like that really shifted something in me. It was the daily rituals, etc. But for me, it's always been about identity, because I knew that it was such a big, significant change that I was going to need to make. I knew that required a different version of me. And I actually drew her. So the version I wanted to be, I drew her. I took the time to draw her. I mapped out how she held herself, how she spoke to people, what type of clothes that she wore, how she spoke to her children, what did her morning routine look like, what did her evening routine look like. Because if you think about it, that if you were even just visually how I looked on day one and how I wanted to look and show up, because I had that huge weight loss goal, they were two different people to look at. They completely. And that's externally. Now what happens internally? What work has to happen internally? So who is she going to be inside? And this is the kind of the power of the work that I do in the space, is that it's not just your surface level 101. Here's top 10 tips for early sobriety, which you can find on fucking ChatGPT now. It's that deeper rewiring, reprogramming, complete tip the belief system up on its arse. And who is the version of yourself that you want to become? And that's the work that I had to do. And that's the work that I did in those early days without labeling it. I wasn't a qualified coach in those early days at all. It was just the kind of intuitively, that's what it took for me. So it wasn't just a case of kind of listening to the podcast and keeping myself distracted and playing it forward and reframing. And yes, they're fucking useful. Of course they are. But for this to be sustainable, to make deep-rooted change, it requires a lot more work. And that's, I think, what I was doing subconsciously at the beginning, which is why it stuck so quickly.
Yeah. So did you just quit the one time and that was it? You were done?
Yeah. That was it. I'd done a couple of like dry Januaries before I got to 2 weeks. But again, that was just a detox, and I bloody needed it because we caned it at Christmas. But yeah, I mean, I say I caned it at Christmas. I was never a sane. I was never a weekend drank, but I drank 4 nights out of 7. Do you know what I mean? It was never, I wasn't a kind of, I just binge drink at a weekend, which obviously some people do. But my binge drinking was looking forward to it all week, thinking about it all week, rules around it all week. And then that realization on a Thursday morning, it's an allowed day, I can drink. And that thinking nothing of that, completely normalizing the sheer excitement that I was going to pour wine down my throat and completely disconnect from my family. Wild, right?
Yeah, it is wild. So how long had you actually, like, when did you start drinking? Like, at what age were you when you started drinking?
14, 15. We used to stand outside the local off license trying to get people to buy us cider. I remember it. We were talking about this the other day because my son has just turned 16 and they're all going to like their first parties, etc. And it was just really interesting, some of the conversations we were having the other day between myself and my husband Dale, and then also with Dexter. And I just said, look, at the end of the day, Dex, I mean, this is probably one for maybe another time or we can talk about it, but I don't ever want you to not drink because of what I do, or the
Yeah.
fact that your dad and I don't drink, because at your age, this is what I was doing. And I've
Yeah.
always been very, very open and honest with him, but it was just a real like moment. Like by his age, I'd got a year under my belt already.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's cider. Oh my God, if I smell that cider now, I don't, oh goodness me. But I was young. I was young. I was very young. We would sneak off. It was never something that was openly done in front of my parents. My dad was a policeman. Um, so yeah, we were kind of heavily patrolled, but we would just
Yeah.
sneak off to youth club. I was 15. And from
Yeah.
then, I don't know whether there was a week that went by.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was exactly the same. I was about 14, used to go down to the local youth club. We used to get people to buy Thunderbirds or White Lightning for us, or Diamond White.
Special red for
And
me.
or 2020. Oh, yeah, just yeah, and then we'd just get pissed at at the youth club, and then we'd go home and try not to spew in front of our parents. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My kids are all teenagers, and my eldest is 18, youngest is 15, and I've got a 17-year-old as well, and the two older ones have sort of been to a few parties, and I have bought them drinks, because exactly the same. Like, I don't want to be that kind of hypocrite. You must not drink. Like, I was absolutely terrible at 14. They've only just started drinking, really, just in the last. So they're sort of 3 years behind me anyway. And I think for me, what I've found is that they've seen me really drunk and not liked it. They've seen me really try. It took me 4 years. I didn't quit straight away. So 4 years of stop starting. I'd go for weeks without drinking, and then they'd walk in and I'd be pouring a glass of wine just because I'd had a shit day, and then I'd be back to drinking for a while. They've seen me struggle with that, and now they've seen me now, and they've seen how much better my life is without it. And I think that has shown them kind of, yeah, I don't think that they will have a problem with drinking because they've seen me have a problem with drinking. That's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm sort of
Yeah.
hoping, I guess. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to say
Yeah.
that they can't drink, but because you can't control it. But
You can't.
yeah, I
You
definitely
can't.
think that my experience has taught them a thing or two, which in a way, I guess, is great.
I think,
Yeah.
I don't know where you kind of sit with this, and people sort of say, oh, this generation aren't going to drink as much. And I agree. On average, they probably aren't. But I think there's still a hell of a lot of prevalence around like social peer pressure. Like Dexter, my son, he doesn't want to drink, absolutely does not want to drink. He's
Mm.
already said he doesn't want to drink. And I get it, totally get it. He's into his fitness, he just doesn't want to. But I know that the last two parties he's been to, he's had one can. And again, groundbreaking. You do you. This is all part of growing up, sadly. It's just something that's like an initiation that we all go through. But that peer pressure's still there
Yeah.
because he still had one just to look like he got one, and he said, I made it last the whole time. But it's just that part of feeling like you've got to fit in. That's still there.
Yeah.
And they all drink. So out of like 10 lads, there's 9 of them that drink and Dex that doesn't. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. And again, that might change. He's 16, for God's sake. Who knows what's going to happen and what the future might bring. But there's still the social pressure. I don't think we can kind of almost sort of say that this generation, well, I can't imagine they're going to be as bad as us. I don't think any
No.
generation could be as bad as us with drinking, surely. No way.
No.
We loved it.
Oh, well, I do think like and again, I've talked about this before, but the whole, like when we were growing up, you're a few years younger than me, but when we were growing up in the 90s, our influencers were people like Zoe Ball and Sarah Cox and people like that were getting pissed and drinking pints. They were getting married to the Gallagher brothers and stuff like that, and then they were just kind of getting all Larry and that whole ladette culture. That's what we looked at, and we thought like, swigging pints, smoking fags, that's cool, right? But now my kids, their influencers are going to the gym and drinking smoothies, and it's totally different. So I do think it's still there, but I think it's obviously social media's got its bad sides as well, but I'd rather be influenced by a gym person than somebody spewing up in a drain. So
without a doubt.
So talk us through the first 100 days. So obviously you did your first 30 days and decided that was it, you were done. So how did the rest of your 100 days go?
So initially I set up my Instagram account on day one. The first post on my Instagram is literally a screenshot of, I don't even know what platform I was using to put my content together back then. I scroll back through and I'm like, oh my God. And I say to a lot of my business coaching clients, just go back to the beginning of my Instagram. You might be worried about showing up on your Instagram now, but go back to the start of mine. Everybody starts patching it together. It's
Yeah.
hilarious to go back. But anyway, there's a screenshot of I'm setting myself 100 days. These are the rules, no attachment to the outcome. That was literally at day one. And I used Instagram as my digital journal. So I posted every single day, every thought that was going through my head. Poor Dale got the brunt of it because the communication is something that I preach about all the time. I took him for the ride. He had every thought that came through my mind, every emotion that I was experiencing, the lot. I don't know how he didn't have a mental breakdown. I have no idea. But I used Instagram in the same way. I just shared everything that was coming up, events, navigating urges, what I was doing, what I was listening to. And I just used it as a digital journal. I showed up every day. And that was definitely something that really helped me because it was my accountability. It was an outlet. And I was also generating a lot, and you'll know this yourself with your Instagram. A lot of people were reaching out and saying, oh my God, me too. You're saying the things that I daren't say. I thought that was just me.
Yeah.
My other friends in my friendship circle, I could never say this sort of thing out loud. That's the thought that I'm thinking of when I'm getting up to go for a wee, or I'm waking up with anxiety in the middle of the night. You're saying those things that I thought were just me, and I've been so ashamed about them, but now you're normalizing them. It's really helping. So that spurred me along, obviously, as well. It kind of gave me a bit of a purpose outside of just something that was my mission. I realized that this was becoming something a bit bigger. And yeah, so we kind of got to around the 100 days. After the 30 days of knowing full well that I was never going to drink again, realized, right, okay, so what is this going to take to make this last longer? And that's when obviously started to kind of take things a bit more seriously. I did have a weight loss, like I say, I did have a fitness program that I was running alongside my sobriety as well. Something else I always preach to my ladies as well is have something bigger than your sobriety. And I know that sobriety probably feels like the biggest thing to you right now, but it's important to not make it the biggest thing. It's to try and have something else that runs alongside it that, if you were to pick up a drink, is going to be heavily impacted by a hangover or, I don't know, downtime or whatever it may be, not having your brain to yourself. So having that fitness goal working alongside my sobriety really helped me because it distracted from it all being about not drinking as well.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
something else. And I see that a lot, that generally in terms of people that have a higher success rate is where we're not obsessing, like you said, they're not just white knuckling. We're not just thinking about not drinking all the time. We're just not just focusing on what we're missing out on. So yeah, I had that running alongside the alcohol-free challenge, initial challenge, right from the start. So yeah, it's that's kind of how the first initial 100 days went. I wasn't the kind of person that would rip the plaster off and get myself in front of everybody and try and endure my sober first as quickly as I possibly could. I was very boundary driven. I was very much kind of checking in with what I felt comfortable to do. Because again, I'm a huge advocate of protecting your sobriety as much as humanly possible, not jeopardizing your sobriety to keep anybody else happy at all.
Yeah.
And if it isn't a full body, yes, don't frigging go to it.
Yeah.
Obviously be mindful of how long you're doing that for. And if you're going to stay in your bedroom like a recluse as often as you can and for too long, obviously we need to address that. But don't be putting yourself in a situation where you're not ready to do it yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I did a couple of things that were with friends, and I took a couple of cans of the kind of CBD trip drinks with me. I had the benefit of having a lot of weight to lose. So when people challenged me and said, why are you not drinking? I would just say, because I'm trying to lose some weight. And they wouldn't argue with me because I was bigger than I'd ever been. And it was very obvious at the time because I'm only short too. So they didn't argue with that. And I do have a bit of a resting bitch face, sadly. So when I was kind of with conviction, like I'm not drinking, so.
Yeah, just fuck off. Stop asking me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of like the first initial 100 days. So yeah, that was me, I think.
Yeah, I do remember because I went, like when I first started eight plus years ago, I was part of 1 Year No Beer on Facebook, and they
Yes.
always said, get yourself a challenge. You know, I think that's why so many sober people end up running marathons and stuff, because we've sort of had that ingrained in us, you know, like have something to work towards so that you're having to get up in the morning to train, you're not getting up with a hangover, you know, all of that stuff to kind of,
Yeah.
motivate you to not have that drink at night time so that you can go out and train for it in the morning, sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a good piece of advice. But yeah. What was the hardest part in the beginning that you didn't expect?
Um, Hardest part. I think there's two, I think. Probably the first Christmas, I
Yeah.
found that really, really tough.
What month
And
did you give up in?
August. So I was about
Oh,
four
oh yeah.
months.
So you were 4 months. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because I had managed to control everything up to that point, where I went, who I saw, when, how often I went, and I could use the me not drinking as the main reason why I wasn't doing it. Dale, my husband, understood. You go and see your family. I'm not feeling it today, or like my one of my it was Dexter or Ollie's birthday parties. I can't remember. They went to the pub afterwards. I went back home with the kids. Um, all those things were fine in those early days. When it came to Christmas, I didn't have the same level of control of people coming to the house, of us being invited to places, and I did find that really difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second thing that I found difficult was grieving the old version of me.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
found that really tricky.
Yeah.
And I can remember there was a podcast episode with Dan O'Reilly, Dapper
Mm.
Laughs.
Oh
He was on
yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
and he got really upset and really emotional on the episode that he was on, and he was talking about grieving the old version of him and friends not
Yeah.
being the same, etc. And it
Yeah.
coincided with me coming back from a big party at one of my friends, and I remember finding that, and I don't know whether it was which way I kind of listened to them. Maybe I went to the party and then a couple of days later went for a walk and listened to that podcast, and then when I came back, all of a sudden, because I'd heard it normalized, rationalized, somebody put it into words what I was feeling, I got back and just completely broke down. That didn't go on Instagram. I didn't
Yeah.
go on Instagram. To my husband Dale, and just said, like, I am never going to be that girl again. And that
Yeah.
I found harder than anything. Didn't last long, because again I had Dale to bounce all of this off, and I was able to kind
Mm.
of make sense of it in my own head, with the practices that I got, and kind of taking myself out and going for a walk, and etc etc. But I think that's one of the things, whilst it didn't last very long, just letting go of that old version of me,
Yeah.
and knowing that ability to completely not give a fuck will not come back. You're not going to get that again. We're not going to get that again. And in that realm, in that, by taking something and switching off and disconnecting, that's not going to be possible. But it is possible to achieve that. But it's going to take a lot of work to be able to do that
Yeah.
as a natural default. I'm there now, but it does take a lot of work. So knowing
Yeah.
that, not having that off switch, and all of a sudden that realization that this is you, was quite
Yeah.
a big one, I
Warts and
think.
all.
Oh
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the grieving thing is yeah, it's a part of the process that you don't really hear about, I think. And it's one of those things that just kind of it creeps up on you, and then you have that awareness of, yeah, I mean, there's definitely times that I had amazing times when I was drinking. You know, like we all did. We had great times when we were drinking, and just that sort of, you know, that thought that we'll never have that again, you know. But I sort of, I think my first 11 I was so stoked to finally get to sobriety after 4 years of trying,
yeah.
that my first sort of few months were, I was just on a buzz the whole time. I was just so stoked. Like I got past my longest ever. 80 days was the most I'd ever done. 80, or I think 79 was the most I'd
Mm.
ever done. When I got to 80, I set up my Instagram page, and yeah, my original Instagram page. And yeah, I was like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back. And then 11 months after I got sober, I left my marriage. And then
Mm.
so and then I think it all kind of like compounded a little bit because I had my marriage breakdown. I moved towns, so I moved 2 hours south to a new town where I didn't know anybody. So I had all of that going on, and then the grief kind of hit of like, who am I now? Because all of a sudden, after 19 years, I was single again, and I didn't drink, and I was in this town where I knew nobody, and it all kind of compounded, and it was like, holy shit, there's a lot of emotions going on right now, and what is all this, so many questions to ask myself, like, who am I, what do I want to be?
Yeah.
And I can be anything that I want to be now because I'm no longer married, I'm on my own, sort of thing. So yeah, that was huge, and I'm so stoked that I didn't go back to drinking back then, because I very easily could have done. But yeah, it's pretty cool to get through that first year of being by myself and having all of those emotions thrown at me. Yeah, and not drink was, then that's kind of like, well, I'm never going to drink again because I can get through that. I can get through anything.
I think that, I mean, there, what you just showed there is like, it's that new identity, isn't it? You wrote a new identity for yourself. That work,
Yeah.
you've literally explained those steps that you went through. You created a new identity. Okay, right. Okay, we're here now. We're not the same as we were. What does this now look like?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was exciting, but it was
Yeah.
also terrifying and sad and very emotional.
Yeah.
all of those feelings that we used to drink to numb as well, and I'm not
Absolutely.
having that anymore. So
And it's the change, isn't it? It's the process of change. It's not comfortable. If it's fucking uncomfortable, you're doing it right.
yeah, yeah.
If it
Yeah.
feel I think I stand by that. If it feels
Yeah,
easy, you wait for the
it's too
speed bump.
comfortable.
Wait for
Yeah,
the speed
yeah. Obviously we're on the opposite sides of the world from each other, but we kind of do the same but different. We're sort of helping people navigate sobriety. What do you see as like one of the biggest things that's holding people back from looking for help, do you think?
The fear that they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think there's millions of reasons, millions of things I think holding people back. The fact that anybody you do try and talk to about it, if it's in your friendship circle, that it gets completely minimized.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're fine. You haven't got a problem. You drink just like the rest of us. The fact that we're so heavily marketed to, the fact that we are completely shamed if we do want to make a change. Like I said, the fear of not actually doing it, of another one of those things, because sadly, as women, when it kind of comes to, I don't know, weight loss or starting a new diet or a new fitness craze, or I'm going to train for this, life gets in the way because we're fucking busy and we can't quite achieve it. But sadly, when that happens, we're stacking up the evidence of letting ourselves down and not quite completing things that we said we're going to do and setting out to do. So we then have this outlook that we are a woman that doesn't complete things. So when it comes to alcohol, and it's big and it's scary and probably harder than anything we've tried to do before, because it's not relative to, I don't know, trying to lose a bit of weight, because it's a highly addictive substance. We're preloaded with, we're never going to be able to do it. And I don't want it to be another thing that I don't. So it stops people from starting. Knowing that they've got social occasions coming up, there's never a fucking right time. There is never a right time. The amount of times I hear women are really ready. I mean, I'm in launch for my 100 days at the moment. The amount of times I hear from women, I'm desperate to change. I know enough's enough, blah, 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 all of these reasons. I know you get it. That's why we're talking. But I've got a wedding coming up, but I've got a holiday coming up, but and it keeps us staying exactly where we are, because the thought of doing these things without the lubricant of alcohol, without all the association, one, what's the point? Because that was me. Like, if I can't go and get wasted, what is the fucking point? I want to go and have a drink. I want to go and let my hair down. They were so intrinsically linked together. There's a million different things that are keeping people exactly the way that they are. And the other thing is that there aren't enough of us banging the drum and demonstrating how incredible sobriety is and showing an easier path, I don't think, as well. So we kind of talk about, and I'm probably going to go off on a bit of a tangent, so stop me, but we talk about there being such a big amount of shame and a big amount of stigma in sobriety, but we fuel that fire when we stay quiet about it.
Mm. Yeah.
When we're quiet and, oh God, I don't tell people I'm not drinking because they're going to think I've got a problem. Whereas if we flip that and we switch it on our head and we be loud and we be proud, and again, it's different because people's starting points are different. We've got a big sliding scale. You might call it the middle. I call it the forgotten middle. But we've got a big scale here, so everybody's starting point looks different, and people have reasons for wanting to be quiet. But we add fuel to that shame and stigma whilst we don't speak up. So I think
Yeah.
that because it's not that easy unless you're following sobriety accounts and immersing yourself in the sober community. It's not easy to see women, strong fucking high achieving women that aren't drinking, because it's not an everyday occurrence. It's still rare. It looks really
Yeah.
common to us. It looks really like there's
Yeah.
and there are a lot more of
Because
us.
we're surrounded in it.
We're
Yeah. Yeah.
surrounded
Yeah.
by it. We are surrounded
Yeah.
by it. But there's still not. So for the average woman, unless she goes looking for it, she doesn't see a lot of role models out there that are loud and
Yeah.
proud, showing the beauty of sobriety. So it's very easy for them to maybe come into a sober space. And I hear this a lot with the women in the early days of 100 days, like especially around a bank holiday. They're in the community and they're thriving, and then all of a sudden they'll go back on their Instagram and they're surrounded by other friends, cheersing with Prosecco, etc., everywhere they look. That's the norm for them. So
Yeah.
because there's not that model, is also holding them back as well, because it's just not normalized enough.
Yeah, I know when I finally had enough, I hadn't quite quit yet, but I was probably about the 3.5 years of having stopped started, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, just quit already. And I just followed so many sober accounts on Instagram. I don't think I'd ever really used Instagram before that, but I was like, okay, Instagram's the place where you can find all these sober accounts. I found like Sober Dave, and I think Kate Walking the Straight Line had just come on the scene because she's a few months further along than me. And yeah, I just started following heaps of stuff. It just bombarded my newsfeed. So
Yeah.
in the morning I'd look, and the first thing I saw was sobriety accounts, and I'd
Yeah.
look at stuff and I'd go like, right, okay, and that would set my intention for the day. And then if I felt like I had a craving, then I'd quickly go on it and I'd look at something, and I knew from my time on Facebook that the good thing about like Instagram and social media is that somebody is awake in the world, that if you do a cry for help, especially on Facebook, you used to do a post and be like, help, I'm struggling. Literally within a minute, somebody would be like, you're all good, or give you a kick up the bum, or send you a virtual hug, or whatever you needed in that moment. But because there was somebody always online somewhere in the
Yeah.
world. And I just found that so helpful, because I didn't have real life support. I had,
Yeah.
I was the community that
Yeah.
I was in, massive drinking culture, and I didn't have that. So I massively relied on the social media on that. So a lot of the women that I work with are kind of like the high functioning, holding it all together on the outside, but then internally just kind of like questioning their relationship, and maybe trying to moderate, but moderation doesn't work for very long. And what do you feel about moderation?
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
bullshit. I mean, you can either moderate or you can't. And if you can moderate, then great. But the women that I work with can't moderate. So if
Yeah.
you're a unicorn, like my husband, before he quit drinking, he could moderate. He could take it or leave it. Great. Good for
Yeah.
you. The women I work with, whole different fish. It's
Yeah.
a whole different fish. And we're battling and we're trying to moderate. And sometimes we'll do months. And then all of a sudden it starts to, oh, well, we could just do one because we've proved that we can control it.
Mm.
For a certain type of woman, moderation is a complete and utter myth.
Yeah.
In my opinion. It's not a popular opinion, but I don't give a shit, because
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time and time again. I've battled with moderation forever. I will just do this and I'll get here and then I can't do that because I do not have a moderation switch with wine. I've never opened a bottle of wine and gone, I really want a glass of wine. I've never wanted a glass in my life. I want to see the bottom of that bottle, and at the time would never have labelled it as this. I want to feel that woozy feeling where I'm completely disconnected, completely numbed, cause an argument with Dale, wake up tomorrow, pissed off with myself for eating 45 million bags of crisps, laying in when I was supposed to get up. That's what I want. I craved that, a complete disconnection, that self-destruction. Again, never looked chaotic to anybody else because I wasn't stumbling around, etc., because the tolerance for it was quite high too. But I never wanted to moderate. It was a trick that I told myself.
Mm.
And again, working with all of these women for what is all of this time now, they can't either
Yeah.
have the proof. People can argue around the moderation myth as much as they want, but I'm telling you, with the hundreds and hundreds of women backing me up, that that is not the case at all.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
lie your
I
brain
feel
is telling.
like if we could moderate, you wouldn't need to moderate, right?
If you're trying to moderate, if you are a person that is trying to moderate their drinking, you can't moderate your drinking.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Dale never thought,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to moderate my drinking. He just had a beer at a weekend and never fucking thought about it.
Yeah.
That's a moderate. Somebody can moderate. Take it or leave it. Go for a drink, go
Yeah.
out for a meal and just have a glass of wine and just take it or leave it. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
It's
No.
not my story.
No. I never saw the point, and yeah, you're right. Like one drink was never enough, right? So, yeah,
No.
yeah, there's no point. Yeah.
And I never sort of drank to get to cause chaos or anything like that. But that one glass didn't get me the desired effect. It didn't give me the desired outcome.
Yeah.
It was the
So
thing.
it
It
was
was a whole
pointless.
thing for me. My evening was around that bottle of wine. It wasn't, I just fancy a glass, then I'll get on with my evening. My evening was the wine. I was thinking the other day, like, now if I watch a movie with Dell in the living room, I'll like lay down. It's almost like a new life, because who can lay down watching a movie when you've got a bottle of wine to drink? Can't drink it laid down, can you? It was
A
just a
big,
realization.
curly straw.
It's a wine hat with just a straw coming out the side. But I just, these little tiny revelations like, oh, this is how normal people relax watching a movie. They lay down. I never did that. Dale did. He laid. Every now and again,
Yeah.
if he'd have a little sip of his one bottle of beer, I was there with my crisps and my wine, like, this is me watching TV. Every time. It's crazy.
It's funny when you look back on just things that you thought were normal.
Yeah.
Mm.
Totally normalized. You do, and we just, it's the, and again, your brain's constantly telling you these things are normal, because the last thing that it wants you to do is change. Your brain is petrified that you're going to turn into somebody different, because it hasn't got a fucking clue what to do with that version of you. It's very used to you being over here and playing it small, and knows that story because it's what you've lived, etc., and what's played out for all of these years. But as soon as you start taking steps towards a new version of yourself, it goes into panic, and that's why it starts trying to justify why drinking's the best idea in the world. And that's what makes it hard, because your brain actually isn't on your side at all at the start.
Yeah. What do you think people are actually craving when they join something like Sober Flourish and your 100 days?
Connection more than anything, I think. But then I say that, and some people don't want to connect at all.
Yeah. Is it accountability as well? And having somebody not so much, do you think?
Sometimes it's not something that I can generalize, because women come to me from all walks of life, completely different start points, wanting different things, needing different things, having tried different things before, having not tried anything before. Some people will come into my world, will see one post and sign up and they join. Some people will sit and I will get a message and say, right, now's the time. And I'll look back and we've been talking for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't group people in terms of what are people really wanting. The underlying thing is that they've had enough. They've had enough of alcohol running the show. They've had enough of not being in control. They have high standards for the majority of their lives. So 95% of their lives, they've got high standards. They're paying for their supplements. They've got their gym memberships. Their kids are they're looking a certain way. Their house looks a certain way. They've got a certain career, but yet the 5%, like the alcohol, is the one thing that they give a pass to, and they lower their standards all the time, knowing that it's going to seep into everything else, and they're fucking sick of it. They are sick to the back teeth of knowing the version of themselves that they can be and getting glimpses of her, but letting this one thing keep continually pulling her back. That would be the one thing if I had to generalize.
It's interesting what you said before about you have people that sort of like lurk around and just sort of watch your content, give you the odd like, maybe make the odd comment, but they don't really interact in any way, but you sort of know that they're there kind of thing. And then other people just come in, Zoom, and then straight away just like book a chat. I had somebody who's found me through so I did a podcast. My last guest episode was with Paddy Gower, who's a journalist here in New Zealand, and he's pretty well known, he's pretty well liked here in New Zealand, and so we did an episode, and she saw a clip that he'd collabed with me, and saw that, found me, did a deep dive on my website, signed up to a 6-month partnership like within a week. You know, it was amazing. Whereas other people are they're just kind of looking to see what you're doing, and just like you said, it's when that time is right, when you've had enough, then you'll sort of, you know, look for help.
I think, yeah, it is definitely when that time is right, but it's also finding the right person that's yours. So I work with alcohol-free women in launching their businesses and scaling their online businesses. And one thing I say to them all the time is that the reason there is room for everybody is that because everybody who is looking for a coach knows that they need help, right? They are just looking for the right one.
The right person, yeah.
They're just looking for the right person. They are looking, we are not all the same, which is gorgeous. Yes, we may all have very similar business models, or we might just have the fact that we're alcohol-free in common, whatever it may be. But everybody's just looking for their person. So she's probably maybe even interacted with other coaches before, but yet she saw something in you and your style and your tonality, everything, and thought she is the one, her. That's why she kind of came in. Yeah. But there are women that will sit and they will interact and they will send messages, and all of my lead magnets, they will send, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, all of the free stuff that I put out, and they have everything, and then they don't join anything. And then all of a sudden they'll just go, I'm in.
Yeah.
Or they'll start to like coach it. Yeah. And I'm in, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, everyone's so different. Everyone's so different. So different.
Yeah. And I always say the thing like an alcohol issue that was making us so miserable and so anxious, and all of these things, so depressed and so sad. And I was in a really, really dark place 5 years ago, and couldn't look at myself in the mirror, just hated what I saw, was so ashamed. And then now it's kind of sort of come full circle, and now we're able to actually turn it into a beautiful thing where we're helping people. And I think that's really cool that we're able to do that now, seeing people that are where I was 5 years ago and being able to help them. A lot of people have this misconception about what sobriety is, and it's like we're in a cult or something and we're lying to them. It's funny that people just think that we're talking shit, you know, when I just think, like, we'll just try it, and if you still think that we're talking shit, then you can go back to drinking if you want to. But honestly, none of us are. You know, we wouldn't be standing on our soapboxes if we were full of shit, you know. So
but I think it's important, isn't it? It's that kind of to always show the reality of it. Is it is incredible, but it's not easy. I would never say any of what the last 3.5+ years now have been easy. It feels easy now because it's just who I am. I don't have to try and not drink. I literally don't even think about it. I've got no desire whatsoever. It doesn't enter my head. It gets easier, obviously, the more time you've got. But there's an issue. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I don't like to see anybody that kind of paints it as that either. That it's all kind of rainbows and kittens.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, around that kind of full circle, 100%. That's what really changed things for me, was around that. When I realised I'd found my purpose, that sharing my story was actually helping other women and men. It's always been a bit of a strange one for me because I only work with women, but I have a hell of a lot of men in my audience. Always a bit of a tricky conversation. Do you work with men? Will you coach me? I'm like, sorry. But they hopefully still get a lot of value from the content and free bits and bobs. But it was that finding my purpose. It was a full circle thing for me, finding my purpose, helping other women. And yeah, that it's just giving back, isn't it? Finding something that has completely transformed your life, and then finding a way to be able to purposefully give that back and help other women. It's just, there's no better feeling. No better feeling.
Yeah, definitely. If someone's listening to this and thinking this feels a little bit like me, something that they might want to try, but they're not sure what to do next, what would you say to them?
I would say, just give it a go.
Yeah.
Set yourself a small, achievable timescale. And it could even just be, depending again on the start point, it might just be a week. It might just be a week. It might just be 2 weeks. And just really stay close to how you're feeling. Yeah. Focusing on kind of what you're gaining, what are the positives, not what you're missing out on, and just set yourself a tiny, tiny little challenge.
Yeah. I think it's important to focus on what you're gaining, not what you're losing out, because I think a lot of the emphasis is on what you're missing out on, I think, when people think about getting sober, but it shouldn't be that way. It should be the other way around, right? Yeah.
Completely. People do, they just obsess on what they're not able to do. I'm going to a party and I can't drink. Well, you're going to a party and you're going to be able to connect with people like you never have done before. You're going to
Yeah.
be aware of when you're knackered and when you've had enough and you want to go home. You're going to be aware of when the conversations turn south and you're slagging people off that you don't really want to be slagging off, because that's not actually aligned with the version of yourself that you actually are. It's just the booze that makes you her
Mm.
or them.
Yeah.
Um, just yeah, focusing on the positives. It's a mind game, ultimately. It's all a
Yeah.
mind game. And I could go on and on and on around the brain and rewiring, subconscious reprogramming, etc., and how important all of that is. But it is ultimately, like I said to you, your brain isn't on your side. You have to create new thoughts, retrain your brain to focus on the good, because it will focus on the bad if you let it have free reign. It just will, because it's trying to gather evidence of why it's a good idea to go and get that drug back in your body again. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, thank you very much. Where can we find you for those people that don't know where you are? Where can they find you?
Instagram is Sober Flourish, or email me. I love being on my email, which is hello@soberflourish.com.
Cool. All right, Jodi. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my little podcast today. It's been really cool to chat to you. Yeah, I wish you all the best with your next. Have you got retreats coming up anytime soon? Or
Yeah, we've got a retreat in September, which
amazing.
is exciting. I've got that one in September, then we're planning the one for next year. So yeah, it's busy. It's busy, but it's
Yeah.
good and it's gorgeous and it's aligned, and I'm no longer in my corporate role, so couldn't be
Yeah,
happier.
amazing. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I hope the listeners have enjoyed our chat, and yeah, I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks, Jodi.
Bye.